So hello everyone, this is Kushal Sarkar from Fodu Club, and in today's video let's quickly analyze and review the paper, both the papers. Let's quickly review and analyze both the papers of 27th May. We also made a detailed video on the review of both the papers of 26th May. So if you haven't watched that video, watch it after this video. In this video, I'm also going to give you a comparison between both the days of all the 4 different papers that has come till now and what difficulties students have faced. So first of all, for the students who have not done very well in their first attempt, please don't worry. Learn from this experience and do well in the second attempt by properly following good resources and good mock test series. Other than this, a huge congratulations to everybody who have scored very good marks. A lot of students have filled the form today also, and a lot of them have scored immensely well in their paper. Students told that a lot of questions were directly from the Fodu Club book, from the test series, as well as from the crash course, DPP and all the materials that we have given to you. So ये सुन के काफी ज़्यादा अच्छा लगा, and the whole team is really pumped up now to do even better in the second attempt. And do comment below your score as well as the problems and technical difficulties that you have faced during the exam. Now let's start with 27th May first shift paper. Again, this paper was a moderate level kind of a paper, not too easy, not too tough, but somewhere in the middle. Starting with physics, let's talk about the difficulty. Difficulty was reported to be again moderate level. Dominant topics were modern physics, mechanics, as well as thermodynamics. Specifically from Newton's laws of motion and work, energy, power, a lot of simple questions were asked, which were pretty doable. Few questions were also there from electrostatics, which were a bit challenging for the students. But overall, talking about the paper, it was definitely challenging. Not that paper was very lengthy or very calculative, but it involved a lot of critical thinking. This is the point that is to be noted. Like in yesterday's paper also, there were many conceptual questions in physics which seem to be easy, but if you don't know the concept, if you can't think critically, you won't be able to solve those questions. Formula based questions were there, but many questions were not just about formulae, it also required conceptual clarity. Chemistry surprisingly was between moderate to tough level. Students reported that it was a balanced paper with questions from all physical chemistry, organic chemistry, as well as inorganic chemistry. There were few tricky questions as well which could trap you and you might mark the wrong answer. So for students who will be giving the upcoming shifts, be aware of these things, be aware of trap and tricky kind of questions and do them properly and don't make any kind of silly mistake. Questions were from electrochemistry, thermodynamics, as well as a lot of questions involving reaction mechanisms, जो कि generally BITSAT में होता नहीं है. reaction mechanisms बहुत ज़्यादा involved नहीं होते. जैसे last year तो organic chemistry बिल्कुल ही most papers में नहीं आई थी, but organic chemistry is dominating in this year's paper. It is clearly evident. Other than this, few questions were also from salt analysis and coordination compounds. Similar to yesterday, there were many questions from biomolecules as well as chemical kinetics. So these 2 chapters are also dominating in this year's BITSAT and the pattern is clearly evident. So overall, chemistry was a bit unpredictable, not what students generally predict. It was very theory heavy, though there were questions from physical chemistry, but many physical chemistry questions were also theoretical. And that's what we recommend students while they prepare, that don't just solve the numericals for physical chemistry, but also understand the concept so that you can solve the theoretical questions that appear in BITSAT. So if someone has solved the Fodu BITSAT question bank or the DPPs, they are well versed with these kind of questions. Now let's talk about maths. Here is some good news for you. इस shift में maths was comparatively easier. It was pretty much standard BITSAT level, what you usually expect and what you usually solve in the mock test. The maths was very similar to that level. Questions as usual from calculus काफी ज़्यादा dominate किया. 3D geometry, vectors, matrices and determinants, and also LPP से भी few questions were asked. The main highlight of math section is differential equations. Differential equations के 7 to 8 questions आए थे. Students are reporting this, and those questions were not at all easy. They involved a lot of calculations, plus they were on a difficult side. So BITSAT clearly loves differential equation. Last year also a lot of questions were asked from differential equations, and that's why you might have noticed that we have put quite a lot of questions of differential equations in our mock tests also, and therefore differential equation is really important. So in short, with standard formulae and basic commands in the concept, a student will do very well in the math section. Now let's talk about English. Like yesterday, English was very straightforward, very doable. At least 6 to 7 questions you could have done directly. If you leave synonym, antonym, other questions were pretty much doable and straightforward. Talking about LR, some students are reporting LR to be easy and some are reporting it to be a bit tricky. Now logical reasoning obviously varies from student to student, but overall you can say that logical reasoning was from easy to moderate level. A lot of figure based questions were asked, that is a point to be noted. Other than this, English and LR were very scoring. So now let's quickly talk about the second shift, that is the afternoon shift of 27th May. So the paper was more or less similar to the morning shift only. There weren't much differences. The key areas I'll tell you were mechanics, heat से काफ़ी क्वेश्चंस आए थे. Then there were questions from capacitors as well as modern physics. So as you can see, electrostatics, capacitance, mechanics, modern physics, these chunks are really important, and a lot of questions are being asked from these particular topics. So the questions weren't that straightforward, but manageable if you had a decent prep, if you have solved good amount of questions and answered good amount of mock test. Physics was pretty much manageable in this particular shift. Now let's talk about chemistry. Chemistry was again in a moderate to difficult level like the shift 1. Questions were from NCERT but not very direct. One thing to note, that paper was balanced. Questions from again organic and physical chemistry dominated. A bit less questions from inorganic chemistry, but overall the paper was balanced. Last year the weightage was very uneven between physical chemistry, organic and inorganic chemistry, but this year we are seeing an overall balanced paper. One more thing is that कोई एक चीज ऐसा dominate नहीं करी. There were numerical based questions as well as theoretical based questions in the chemistry section of shift 2. Use of isomerism and coordination compounds also dominated in this shift. Questions were a mixture of organic and physical chemistry, like the concepts from physical and organic were clubbed. Few questions were like this. So yeah, you can say that 2 easy questions were clubbed, and ultimately which makes it a moderate level question. So let's say if you're weak in a particular concept, you won't be able to solve that question because that particular question involves the knowledge of both the concepts. That is why the paper has become a little bit tough. But otherwise, if you see, as I said, if you're well versed with the concepts, if you have solved questions properly, you should be able to solve this particular paper. Now let's talk about maths. Again, like the shift 1, it was also a easy paper, a standard paper which you can expect in BITSAT. A lot of standard questions, formula based questions were there which you generally solve in the mock tests. Calculus, trigonometry and 3D geometry dominated a lot. Definite integration and vectors से भी काफी questions थे. Straight line के around there were 2 questions, and quadratic plus complex मिला के there were around 3 questions. Talking about English, nothing different, again easy peasy, very easily and manageable to do. LR was also doable, but analytical reasoning dominated in this particular shift. Standard questions आए थे from series, coding, decoding, blood relations, etc. So if I talk about the overall comparison of today's shifts, both the shifts were pretty much similar. बहुत ज़्यादा difference नहीं था दोनों में. If we compare today's shifts with the yesterday's shifts, definitely today's shifts were easier than yesterday's shifts, especially the math section जहाँ पर students को सबसे ज़्यादा difficulty face होती है. Also the difficulty level is very subjective from student to student. So some students might have felt कि physics was very easy or chemistry was very easy. But this analysis and review is an overall idea about the paper. So the takeaway from all these papers is, paper is standard. In some papers, one particular subject is dominating. In yesterday's case, it was maths. In today's case, it is physics or chemistry. The questions are of BITSAT level, but they are more on a conceptual side, a bit tricky, as well as different concepts or 2 easy questions are being clubbed together to make a new question. So for the students who have exam in the upcoming shifts, give your best, do your best, keep these takeaways. Not just your paper, but takeaways from all these papers are very important when you'll go and give your second attempt. That is why all these points are to be noted properly, so that you can properly work on these areas and improve in the second attempt. You'll get the summary of analysis in the description box as well as in the comment box itself. Also, please mention down your score, how much you have scored or how much you are targeting if you have your exam in the upcoming days. इसके अलावा whatever difficulties that you faced, exam glitches, technical issues, or there were exam delays, please mention that also in the comments below. We are with you, Fodu Club team, is with you. If you're targeting second attempt, do not waste time, start now. If you're still looking for the right resource, there is still one more chance left. Join the crash course by Fodu Club and crack the second attempt. So as always, wish you all the very best and साथ में फोड़ेंगे.